Welcome and study with Tanzania Institute of Education.
Hello, dear student. Welcome to Geography Subject E. My name is Emmanuel Stanislaus from Tanzania Institute of Education. We'll be discussing about research data, the lesson of today. As you are aware, the last lesson we discussed about research types. Now today we are discussing, or we are focusing on the research data. What is a research data? Research data refers to the information collected or gathered in the field while you are conducting research. So the information you gather from the field so that you can use them to answer the question or problem identified, we refer to it as research data. Now, there are different types of research data, but today we are discussing primarily two types of research data. And these are primary data and secondary data. Now, what is primary data? Primary data, we say these are the information gathered primarily from the respondent. We say, in other words, is the one that are corrected afresh and for the first time, and thus happen to be original in character. They are the information corrected from the primary source. They are not from other sources like books and whatever. They are corrected from primary sources or afresh from the respondents. So now, in other words, for example, you are conducting a research about maybe the spread of coronavirus. If you gather information primarily from the first person, then we are saying you are getting the primary information from that person. You are not reading from books what has been written. You are getting afresh from the field. Then we say that is primary data. The primary data, in other words, say, is the first-hand information you get from the respondent. Another type of research data is secondary data. These are the data that has been gathered from documentary, such as books, articles, journals, and other written sources. In other words, we say secondary data. These are research data gathered from the sources that has been already prepared or corrected already. The data that are found in books, in magazines, in maybe WHO reports, and national census reports, and other written or already made written sources. So all the information we gather from all these sources, we say they are referred to as secondary data. Now, do you know about field research? And how can you differentiate between a field research and research? Okay, it's very simple. Let's have a look. We say field research refers to the type of research where the researcher corrects the data physically from the field. That's why we call it field research. You as a researcher, you have to go physically in the field and conduct your study. If you are studying about maybe the types of climates in a certain region, you have to go physically. Not reading from the books or whatever. You have to go physically and correct the data from the field originally. So that kind of study, we call it field research. Okay, we can now continue and have a look on the more elements of field research. Why do we need or why do we emphasize much on field research? There are some advantages of conducting field research. Field research, we say, it allows researchers to gain first-hand experience. You know, if you go by yourself in the field, we are pretty sure that you will get the first-hand information. You will get the primary data. You will not be told by another person that, you know, there's this and this and this. No, you will get it afresh from the field. So it's very important as you can get the first-hand experience and knowledge about the people, about events, and processes that they study. We say it also shows the relationship between man and his environment. You know, if you go into the field, my dear student, it's very easy for you to interact with the nature or with the environment found in that area. So you'll get the link between you and the environment in which or on which you want to correct the information. So that is also another importance or advantage of conducting the field research. But in field research, we say it shows the scientific approach to geographical problems, such as overpopulation, migration, and waste mismanagement, or water and waste mismanagement. Yes, it's very true. Another advantage is that field research provides practical knowledge to students through selection, observing, reporting, and presenting geographical data from the field. It gives you practical knowledge. Practical knowledge. You know about the practical knowledge. The knowledge that you get practically by doing or correcting or seeing it in the field. You get the information on your fingertips because you are in the field. It's different from staying home or in your school and collecting information from libraries and other documentary sources. No. The field research gives you that avenue or that door of getting information afresh from the field and get the practical experience. But we also say field research provides you with additional material to what has already been discovered and written in the textbooks. You know, maybe the textbook has already wrote about the solar system, or maybe the climatic condition of Dodoma region. But you are in Bukoba or in Kigoma. You are reading the book. You'll only get the information that is written in the book. But if you travel and go to Dodoma and do that study by yourself, you'll get this advantage we are saying here. You'll get additional information or materials on that particular problem or issue that has been documented in the book. So it's very nice and advisable for you to go in the field and conduct a study by yourself. So another importance or advantage of field research, we say it creates peace and harmony when the sources and causes of some problems are researched. It gives you peace and harmony of not believing so much or remaining only with what is in the books, but you go practically to study by yourself in the first area or in the field. So there are so many importance of, advantages of conducting field research, and you can see it accelerates socio-economic development. For example, the researched soil promote agricultural development. If you go and test maybe the soil pH, the characteristics of soil, the porosity and whatever, you can get to know the different uses that can be applied on the soil, and then hence you come up with a very conclusive remark on what type of agricultural activity or economic activity can be carried on that particular soil. So it's very important to conduct this kind of research. Yeah, as we have seen, there are some advantages of field research. Now let's continue. It promotes also thinking of you as a researcher. But on the other side, my dear student, we say there are also disadvantages of field research. Now, some of the disadvantages of field research include the following. Is suitable process when students are scientifically oriented, but when they are not, it is difficult to carry that kind of research. If you are well oriented on how to conduct it, it is very good. But if you have not received any kind of orientation or direction, you can end up by failing. So that's one of the disadvantages. But also, we say it consumes a lot of time. It's time consuming. You needed to travel to go to that particular place. You needed to gather some gadgets or some materials to go with. So if you don't have maybe the budget for that travel, then you want to be able to conduct that kind of research. But also, you need to have time frame to conduct that kind of research. It's different You can't set the same time like reading book and conducting or traveling to do certain kind of study. So it's time consuming. But also another disadvantage, it is risky undertaking, especially where you are going in the area where people don't know you. And you want to research something about those people or that society. So sometimes it's very dangerous and you have to be very, very much careful. But field research, we say, may create conflict due to cultural barriers. You are going, for example, to study about the culture of the Maasai tribe or the Haya tribe. And you are not from that tribe. So if you don't know the cultural taboos of that particular tribe, you might find yourself violating some of their basic cultural practices. So for them, they won't bear with you. So you can come up with a conflict and then, so sometimes it's not very, very good to conduct this kind of research if you are not aware with all the taboos and cultural practices of those people. But we also say sometimes the researchers are fed with false information. You don't know what, if the information you are getting from these people is correct or is right or wrong. So sometimes they can feed you with wrong information. But who knows if whatever they are giving you is right or wrong. So it depends on the participants you've engaged. If they are very truthful, they'll give you very truthful information. But if they are not, then you'll get wrong information. So you have to be very careful on analyzing the information so that you get the correct information. So after seeing the disadvantage of the field research, let's have a look on the challenges facing field research. Challenges. What are the challenges? I know you might be thinking of the challenges as you have seen the disadvantages of this type of research. But some of them include inadequate funds. As you have seen, you have to travel and do this and this. So if you don't have enough money, my dear student, it is very disadvantageous for you to conduct this kind of research, and this is one of the challenges. So you need to have enough money. But also, inadequate research expertise. You need to be very expert in doing this kind of research because you are going to engage with a very different, maybe population, which you've not used it to. So you need to have all the techniques and methods of engaging with those people, gathering information from them, soliciting some information, asking them very technical questions so that you get them in all corners and they give you the appropriate information you want. So it needs enough expertise. We also say sometimes the language barrier and poor participation of the respondents, sometimes it might face you, but not only that, but limited time to accomplish your task. You know, you need enough time, but again, there always no enough time. So in the area of time is sometimes very challenging. Now, let us see the stages of conducting research. After we have seen all the disadvantages and challenges facing field research, now it's about stages of conducting research. I know you have studied in different subjects some stages of conducting different activities. Now here we are focusing on stages included in conducting research. There are several stages, but these are very basic that you must understand. The first stage is formulation of a research problem. Others call it identification of research problem. You must identify research problem so that you can conduct research on that type of title or problem. No problem, no research. Second stage is literature review. After you have identified your problem, you have to go in and read books and other written sources like journals, magazines, newspapers, and other sources that are written so that to get information more on the problem you have identified or formulated. Third stage is about formulation of hypothesis. After you have reviewed your literatures and come up with maybe some information about the problem, now you have to put forward a tentative prediction of the results or of the relationship. That if this problem is like this, then this might be the cause or this might be the reasons. Or if this is like this, then so you have to establish that relationship, of which we call it a hypothesis. After you have developed or formulated the hypothesis, then you follow another stage that is pre-survey reconnaissance. This refers to like, okay, visiting the area or the place you want to conduct your research. If it's field research, you have to go before and see the place and go, okay, so know exactly some population characteristics that you will involve during the correction of data. Another stage, or the fifth stage, is research design. You have already put down your hypothesis, then you design your research. You say, okay, I will use this type, my research will be conducted in this way, I will use this population, I will use this research and whatever. So all these we say is like designing your research, referring to the hypothesis and the literature review you've done and the problem you've identified. The sixth stage is data collection. You have research design, now you go and correct your information from the participants we've been discussing. From the sample or whatever you have said, then you correct information from them. Stage number 7 is analysis of data. You've corrected your data, so what? What next is to analyze the information of the data you've gathered. Stage number 8 is hypothesis testing. You know, you formulated the hypothesis. Then it reaches a point where you have to test the hypothesis to see if it fitted on what you've tentatively predicted. So after testing the hypothesis, you generalize and interpret the information. So generalization and interpretation of your findings. You interpret, you generalize, like, okay, if this and therefore this will be, so you just rate your information to the interpretation, and so that you can go to the last stage, that is presentation of the results and report writing. After you have interpreted the information, you present them using different geographical methods like graphs or charts or whatever. And then from there you draw your conclusion. And then you finally put down a report that, okay, this is the research and this is the report, therefore this is what I have found out. So these are 10 basic stages of conducting research. Now, in this lesson, we are going to focus on the first 3 or 2. Then we'll see if time will allow, we'll go to 3 stages. The first stage is formulation of research problem. Don't think of big things, just focus on these in a very simple way. It is about developing or identifying or selecting the title of your research, the topic you want to study about. We are saying a research problem is a statement about an area of concern, a condition to be improved, a difficulty to be eliminated, or a troubling question that exists in scholarly literature, in theory or in practice, that points the need for meaningful understanding and deliberate investigation. In short, we say the research problem is the issue that you have identified you want to conduct research so that you get answers for that. So we can say in identifying research problem, you have to define your problem. Okay, you don't just say, okay, this is my research title, this is my research topic, this is the issue I want to start about. You identify it and define it. Put it in a very clear and understandable way. so that it can be easily understood by yourself and by even the people you are going to engage with during data collection. So that is what we call defining or clarifying your research problem. In other words, we say defining the research problem is the step that drives the scientific process. It is the foundation of research design. From true experiment, you conduct some experiment if necessary, so that you get exactly the focus of your research. So this removes you or just pull you from having a lot of issues to concentrate and focus on one specific area. So that is narrowing down your area of interest. So that is what we call defining research problem. Now, when defining research problem, the following aspects should be observed. You must observe the following aspects. There should be things like technical terms and words or phrases that you want to include in your research. You must be very, very careful with these technical terms and words. But also, you have the basic assumption relating to the research problem should be clearly stated. Basic assumptions. The hypothesis you want maybe to formulate should be very clear from the very beginning. So after clarifying the terms and words or phrases with a special meaning, then you have to make sure that the assumptions are clearly stated. But also, the suitability of the time period and source of data should be considered. The relationship between the type of data you want to correct and the time frame you've put forward, you also have to consider all these so that you get exactly good research title as possible. But also you have to consider the scope of the investigation or limits within which the problem is to be studied. How far do you want to study your problem? So you must be very careful with the scope of your problem. How far do you want to reach? How far do you want to go? So my dear student, watch that also. Now, steps in developing a research problem. There are many steps. We say these 4 steps: statement of the problem, understanding the origin and nature of the problem, surveying the available literature, and rephrasing the problem in specific terms and operation manner are very important in conducting research. You have to be very careful with them. Now, my dear student, I would like to introduce you also to the characteristics of a good research problem. We have said that, okay, we have to pick the research problem, but what are the qualities? What are the characteristics of a good research problem? They include the following. It should be very clear. It should be clear. By clear, you should understand your research problem. It shouldn't have a lot of words, very simple and clear. It should be stated in simple language that even me, I can understand. You don't just set a question or a title or a topic that even yourself you don't understand. So it should be very simple, presented in a simple language that I can easily understand and you can easily understand. It should be specific, that is clearly related to the intention of the research, that is focused. Your research title should be focused, related to the topic you want to study about. Another characteristic is it should not be too new to get reliable sources of information. Don't look for abstract and new issues. Look for something that is familiar, something that you know it exists in the society, or something that is not, in other words, you don't look for the alien things which are too new to you and to the society. You want to get information for that, my dear student. So look for something that is familiar, something that is available in the society, something is troubling the society. But also, it should be financially affordable. Don't look for research titles that you cannot afford financially. You need money to conduct research. So look for simple and clear researches that you can conduct with a very simple and manageable budget. Are we together? Yes. But also we say, literature related to the topic should be available. If you've chosen a certain topic, make sure that you can get around the literatures for that type of title. Are we together? Nice. Now, that was research problem and formulating that type of research title. Now, second stage in conducting research is literature review. This deals with the process of reading books, journals, magazines, and other written sources so that to find more information about your identified problem. I know you have identified the problem. Now you study different books, newspapers, magazines, documentaries, and other prepared reports so that to get information about your problem. I hope you understand. Now, what are the importance of reviewing different literatures, different books? Why do we need to read and read and read different written materials about the problem we want to study? It's very important. Yeah, it enables you to find out what has been done already. You want to know exactly what other people have done. So like that, it's very important to understand or to review the literature. But also it enables you to relate different theories and understand the different theories that has been already prepared or that relate with your problem. It also explains the relationship that exists between the previous studies and the current study. So like that. But also, as you can see on the importance of literature, we say it saves time by avoiding unexpected difficulties that you might not get if you go into the field. Yeah, so we can continue. Another is formulation of a hypothesis. I told you about the hypothesis formulation. This is tentative prediction of the result or the relationship. Now, we have two types of hypothesis. There is two types of hypothesis, alternative hypothesis and null hypothesis. Alternative hypothesis are the type of hypothesis that gives out the positive relationship between variables. It gives positive relationship between variables. Now, my dear student, we have reached to our end of the lesson for today. We will continue next lesson. Thank you very much for your attention. And now I want to leave you with these two questions. The first question is about briefly describe the stages of conducting research, and two is what are the characteristics of a good research problem. So these are two questions of which I want you to do on your own, and then we will meet next lesson. Thank you very much. Bye.